Well, when I was in my 20s, I got my pilot's license. And my dad had been a pilot in the Air Force and everything. And even after the Air Force, he kept his license and flew a lot. It was sort of natural to learn about it. So I got my license, and we were living in Dallas, Texas at the time. And so we bought a little plane, and it was called an air coupe. It was made in France, I believe. It had 2 seats. It was like flying an MG, for those that know what an MG is, a small sports car. And it had low wings, so you'd step on the wing to get into the cockpit, okay? So one time, I took a friend, his name was Mark, and we went flying around the area and spent an hour or so just looking at stuff from above. And then the plane was somewhat old. In fact, it was old.
Like ancient old, or like?
Like it was from the 50s, and this would have been in the late 70s.
She's got some age on her.
Well, we got back to the airport, and there's a lot of protocol about landing in a controlled airspace. You don't just fly in and land. I mean, there's a sequence of events you have to go through to be able to get permission to land. I called the tower from where I'm supposed to, and the radio wouldn't work. I couldn't get anybody to respond. I tried again, and of course I tried again. I spun the dial on the radio thinking, man, maybe there's something here I can do. I knew I was on the right frequency, but anyway, I just got into the normal pattern that you're supposed to land based on the prevailing wind direction, whether you land into the south or land into the north. But I had been to this airport enough times, I knew where the pattern was. So I just entered the pattern. I looked at the tower. This is the part that, I do take some culpability with, and that is, if you can't communicate with the tower, they have a light gun thing that they can flash at you, which is maybe with 2 shorter ones in a certain sequence means, go around, or permission to land, or don't land, or whatever. Well, anyway, I didn't have those memorized.
Oh, was he flashing you?
So I could see that he was, but it was meaningless.
Yeah, because you couldn't understand.
Yeah. I suspected that they were telling me not to land. Okay? But I wasn't 100% sure. And I didn't see any aircraft in front of me, and I didn't see any aircraft behind me. So I felt like I'm not endangering anyone's life, I know enough not to just jump in front of somebody. So I landed. I went through just the normal process, lined up on the runway, landed, taxied over to what they call a tie-down area, where you tie down your aircraft. And, well, we hadn't even so much as cut the engine on the plane before this guy came over and waved me over to him. Real stern-looking fellow. Just think military. I got out. Mark got out. The guy said to me, "What's your problem?" I said, my radio went out. "Uh-huh. The tower wants to talk to you." "Okay, let me finish." "No, right now." "Oh." And the guy said, "Quit dawdling. Come on, let's go." I got in the golf cart thing with him, and we went over to the tower, which was on the other side of the airport. Took a little while to get there. We went up into this room, and this guy, a real serious-looking fellow, said, "Let me see your license." So I had my little paper license. Back then, it didn't have a picture on it or anything. It just, yeah. He goes, "Don't you know enough about that you're supposed to talk to the tower, and there's a certain sequence and all this stuff," however he put it. I said, "Yeah, I know, but my radio went out." "Don't you know about the light signal?" I said, "I know that they're there." The guy rolled his eyes, I said, "But I just didn't remember what they meant." The guy said, "Well, I gave you the signal not to land." And I, of course, being a young person, started to give him a rebuttal like, "What was I supposed to do?" That kind of deal. But as soon as I started to say something like that, he said, "Don't say one word. You'll just get in more trouble." He goes, "Be quiet." I hadn't even said anything. It's like, He told the guy, he said, "Go follow Mr. Brown back over there, check their radio, and report back to me." The guy and I went back over to the plane. he said, turn on the key or power up the radio or whatever he said. I did. He got in, or he stood on the wing and leaned over into the aircraft. Of course, you have to understand, at that moment, I totally anticipated the radio would work fine. Is that not the way that usually is, you know?
That's exactly the way it usually is.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Well, it didn't work.
Thank God.
I know. And the guy reached over. He tried to manipulate certain, buttons and knobs. It was a pretty simple radio. He said, you've got 24 hours to fix this radio. In the meantime, this plane is, he didn't use the word impounded, but is restricted from flying. Gosh, I thought to myself, why would I want to fly? I got no radio. The guy went off, no goodbye, or hey, I understands, or hey, it'll be okay. The next day, I, of course, got a radio shop at the airport to look at it. And there was a lot of problems. They had to basically replace the radio. And then, upon completion of that, I submitted that paperwork to the tower, and I never heard from them again. Not a, hey, good job, or go to hell, or man, you guys aren't welcome. But I mean, I got it done, but it was pretty scary while it was going on. That was one of the stories about my attempts to be a pilot.